what he's going to do before he hits. And when a player can do that and then go do it and consistently, you know, it's not bragging or anything. And, you know, he's a great player. Just nobody knows him.
I don't know why they always talk about age. You know, longer you do good and look good in the field, I mean, age don't mean anything.
But does it bother him that he receives so little attention?
Well, it really doesn't bother me. You know, I've been like that for many years here, so the point is that I want to do good and help this ball club go all the way.
Well, that doesn't seem likely. The Astros have been a mediocre team at best this season. The one real standout has been Cruz. Besides batting average, he's among the National League leaders in hits, doubles, RBIs, and on-base percentage. But even by his standards, that month-long hot streak was phenomenal.
I was same kind of hitter. The only thing at the beginning of the season, I was hitting the ball hard and right to some people. And later on, that thing changed. We're hitting the ball when nobody can catch it. And like I said, I'm pretty lucky too. I've been hitting a lot of ball and bloopers and choppers, all kind of hits. That's what happened is, you know, you're going to hit 300 when you get those hits like that, you know, like an infield hit and get a lot of bloopers and land dry. That's what happened.
Basically, the balls were hit hard, number one, and he found a lot of holes. And Jose runs hard all the time, and he beats out some infield hits, and he gets some high choppers and bloopers and to go with his line drives, and it seems like everything's working for him right now.
Cruz says that even when he was hurt, he was hitting better than when he was well.
You got to go out there and play sometime with pain. I don't see any player go out there, you know, like one day, you know, with pain. I think, like Pete Rose said one time, you know, you got to know how to play with pain sometime. That's what happened with me. I've been playing a lot of time with pain, but I just go out there and try to do my best, and this is when I hit better.
Cruz might never get much attention on this Astros team, but he's satisfied. In fact, he says he might never have become a 300 hitter if he hadn't come to the Astrodome with its long fences.
Before I was trying to pull the ball too much, and I learned to hit the ball the opposite field. That's what happened. I come out a 300 hitter.
As you probably already know, in one of the most astonishing stories in Major League Baseball this year, Pete Rose was traded from the Montreal Expos to become player manager of the Cincinnati Reds, a team which he spent the first 16 years of his career. The move not only rekindled the spirit of Cincinnati fans, whose club was 20 games out of first place, it also bolstered Rose himself. Winning his debut as manager against the Cubs, Rose also got 2 hits as a player in that very first game. He got 3 hits the next game and 3 more the game after that. He's been on a tear since returning to Cincinnati. We have followed him in his quest for hit number 3,000, then hit number 4,000, and his 44-game hitting streak of 1978. Few athletes are studied as much as Rose, but then few athletes live up to the pressure that he does. Rose might be the only player manager in baseball, and at the age of 43, he's not the youngest manager. For our trivia question this week, we want to know who is the youngest manager in the major leagues, and we'll be back with that answer.
This is a heavy-duty...
As the National League is concerned, it's the New York Mets manager, Davey Johnson. He's 41 years old, but actually, the youngest manager in the major leagues is the skipper for the Milwaukee Brewers, Rene Lachemann. He is 39, and he will not turn 40 until May of 1985. The last player manager in the major leagues, incidentally, was Don Kessinger of the Chicago White Sox, and that was back in 1979. The 2 division-leading teams in the American League are spearheaded by 2 young catchers, both of whom are very interesting stories. The 28-year-old Lance Parrish of the Eastern Division leaders, the Detroit Tigers, is the best power-hitting catcher in baseball. Dave Engel of the Western Division leading Minnesota Twins is 27 years old, hitting at a 280 clip, and surprising many baseball people with his ability to become a top-flight catcher in just 2 years. Engel, at 210 pounds and versatile as an athlete, looks like the ideal catcher. But 2 years ago, he was an outfielder. Lance Parrish had a scholarship to play football at UCLA, which he spurned to sign with the Tigers. But he signed as a third baseman. And both of these young men, articulate and knowledgeable beyond their years, realized what had to be done to become the field leaders for their teams.
When I first came up here, I basically felt that all my job really included was just to go out and catch the ball and get it back to the pitcher and worry about myself.
I give guys like Johnny Bench, Carlton Fisk, some of the great catchers from before, a lot more credit than I ever did, because the durability factor late in the season, catching every day is... I got parts of my body hurt that I didn't even know I had before.
It's taken me some time to at least accept the role. You know, I realize that there is somewhat of a leadership responsibility when you're behind the plate to take charge of a game, take charge of the pitching staff, try to make the game run smoothly, make sure your pitcher's involved in the game.
And you've got to really make constant adjustments all the time in your swing and trying to telling your body, hey, you know, this isn't going to, only 2 months to go. You've got to learn to lie to your body a little bit, and you've got to be a diehard psycho back there a lot of times, too, to get up to go, because it's a big responsibility back there behind the plate.
Through most of last season, Twins manager Billy Gardner was looking for another catcher. He didn't think Engel could make it. But now Engel is hitting around 280 and is a consistent force defensively. The Twins management says no other player in Major League history has been converted to the #1 catcher while playing in the majors. Usually, they're shipped down to the minors.
You've got to have a feel for the pitcher, the way he's working, the hitters, what they're looking for, what your manager wants you to do, how guys are defensive players. It really, you've really got to be 100% into it all the time.
I've come to realize over the last few years that it's a little more complicated than that, I am basically responsible for keeping my pitcher involved in the game as much as possible, try to keep him as intense and as competitive as possible, not let him get down on himself, try to keep everybody involved in the game, whatever the situation might be. And I'm still learning, just like everybody else. I'm still working at it.
But few people feel Parrish is in over his head at the catching position. In many ways, he's the supreme catcher in the league. The starter for the American League All-Star team this season. He is also among the league's leading home run hitters with nearly 30 home runs. He also has become a dominant influence defensively. Last year, he led the league in throwing out the most runners attempting to steal.
Having the opportunity to play with the same guys for a number of years has helped everybody, as well as myself, you know, get a feel for how the game's supposed to run, and when somebody sees me not doing something as well as I see them not doing something that they should be doing, you know, then I can more or less tell them about it, relate to them, so it makes my job a lot easier that way.
Still, catching is probably the most demanding position in baseball. San Diego's manager Dick Williams, for example, says that if his catcher, Terry Kennedy, went down with an injury right now, even with the Padres leading their National League division handily, then they wouldn't make it to the playoff. That kind of importance is not lost on someone like Engel.
You've got to notice if guys change their footwork or change bats or move off the plate. And you've got to keep an eye on your pitcher to see how he's getting along inning to inning. If he's starting to struggle a little bit, you got to get him back in rhythm, keep his morale going, and at the same time maintain your average in RBIs and help to be an offensive production.
We'll return with our Atari Stats of the Week when Baseball USA returns.
When I was growing up, I didn't spend all my time playing tennis.
Has responded. This year's starter on the American League All-Star team, Lemon, got over 1 million votes. And for once, fans appreciated a great center fielder, one on his way to a Gold Glove Award.
Really, I enjoy everything defensively because I work so hard at it. I make everything fun. Going to the left is not difficult. Going to the right is not difficult. Coming in is not difficult. Going back is not difficult for me. I do them all.
It's fascinating to study this man's attitude to the game. In his last 4 years with the Chicago White Sox, he hit around 300. Then he got traded to Detroit and batted in the mid-200s for 2 years. This year, he is once again flirting with the 300 average. Why?
I think that right now, I take advantage of my at-bats probably more than I did when I was younger. When you're younger, I think that you have a tendency to believe that you're going to do it no matter what. Now I think that, you know, now that I'm a 9-year veteran, and even though I'm still relatively young, to have 9 years, I'm still in my 20s, I think that I've learned that if you take advantage of every at-bat, every plate appearance, it helps a lot. You'll be amazed at what 5 or 6 hits can do, not only for your confidence, but what it can do for you when the season is over.
He also has a remarkable attitude when it comes to fighting hitting slumps, something from which he has not been immune.
You reflect in your mind how very fortunate you are to be able to do something that you really enjoy doing, and that's playing baseball. And we all have periods of time where we're not playing as well as we possibly could. You know, we play 162 games, and it's tough sometimes to come out every day, especially when it's about 105 degrees out. And, you know, you're in the middle of the season. I guess it's kind of like the dog days, and you really have to bear down and concentrate. But you think about how fortunate you are. You realize that you only play, what, about 7 months out of the year, and you have 5 months where you don't have to worry about it, and then you go out and you play as hard as you can. And I imagine, really, for me, that's what it's all about.
It's rare to find such a generous person in the game, especially one who's been hit by pitches more than 100 times in his career. But Lemon attributes that to his Jehovah's Witness faith.
Well, I think that I'm a really easygoing person. I'm a pretty nice guy. I imagine I'm really serious, but I'm still pretty easy to be with. I'm very religious-oriented. When I say religious-oriented, I'm very conscious of my theocratic needs. I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm able to do something I enjoy doing. I appreciate that everything I have is from God, and He's really blessed me and allowed me to do something I really enjoy doing.
That attitude has also brought in Lemon an appreciation for the little things in the game.
I've learned how to play baseball, win in baseball, and not be overly concerned with numbers. I think that numbers are good. They're good if you're going to be a free agent the next year. But as far as winning baseball games, I don't think that numbers win baseball games. I think that the little things that you do in between the white lines that never shows up, getting the runner over from second base, driving the runner in from third with less than 2 outs, keeping a base runner from going first to third in situations, key situations, turning a big double play, things like this that you'll never hardly read about. They'll never show up in the statistics, but this is what really win baseball games, and that's what I learned.
Chet Lemon works very hard, and during batting practice, when he's out on the field, he just doesn't shag balls. He plays the hitters like it's a game.
I'm a firm believer of hard work, and if you go out there and bat on as hard as you can and concentrate as hard as you can make things happen for yourself, and basically, that's about it.
It's time now for our Atari Stats of the Week. And first, we're going to show you the American League and National League teams that are the longest current streaks of seasons above 500. They are the Baltimore Orioles of the American League and the Philadelphia Phillies for the National League. The Orioles have had 16 straight seasons over 500. The Phillies have had 9 straight seasons over 500. By the way, the all-time record for most seasons over the 500 mark is, of course, held by the New York Yankees. They went 39 years over 500. That was from the years of 1926 to 1964. We also thought we'd show you how one player can sometimes make a difference in the team. The Cubs second baseman, Ryne Sandberg, is the man many people think will get the National League's Most Valuable Player award this season. He certainly got one from the Cubs. The Cubs are 35-7 when Sandberg gets 2 or more hits in a game. And finally, we wanted to document what has become the Cy Young jinx in the American League. Mike Flanagan of the Orioles won the Cy Young Award in 1979 and hasn't won more than 16 games since. Steve Stone won it in 1980 and was out of baseball the next year. Raleigh Fingers won it in 1981 and has had 2 major operations since, both of which have knocked him out of the last 2 seasons. Pete Vukovich won it in 1982 and hasn't won a game since. And Lamar Hoyt won it in 1983 and is 10-13 as of the start of the week this year. And Hoyt even says he feels jinxed. 73 home runs in his 22 years of Major League Ball. Harmon is ranked 3rd in home run frequency behind Babe Ruth and Ralph Kiner. Now 48 years old, Harmon runs an investment company in Oregon. But he will never forget the moment 31 years ago when his career began. It was like a storybook fable.
It started when I was just 17 years old. I was playing semi-pro baseball in a little town in Idaho, Payette, where I was born and grew up. And Mr. Griffith, Unc, as Calvin calls him, who owned the ball club at that time, Clark Griffith, sent Ossie Bluegee out to see me, who was the farm director of the ball club. And that's how I first was contacted by the old Washington Senators, and that was in 1954.
The Griffith family had only gone to check out a rumor about the kid, but after looking at him once, the scout was ready to sign him to a contract.
I happened to hit a home run that night, and Mr. Bluegee went out and stepped it off. He said it was 435 feet, and he thought that was a pretty good hit for a 17-year-old boy. And he called Mr. Griffith and told him about me. And Mr. Griffith said, "Go ahead and sign him." And so Mr. Bluegee left a contract in the law office of the United States Senator from my hometown, Senator Welker. And I talked it over with my older brother. My father had passed away at that time, and my mother, and decided that baseball was what I wanted to do with my life, so I signed that contract and went directly to the Washington Senators and the Griffith organization.
There have been millions of boys who dreamed of being discovered, and it all came true for Harmon.
It was like a dream come true, actually. Under those conditions in those days, the old bonus rule, I had to go to the Major League Ball Club and stay there for 2 years before I could be sent to the minor leagues. And so I guess I kind of grew up in the Griffith organization and was very young when I first became acquainted with the family.
The memories of his youth are very important to Harmon, as one could tell during the Hall of Fame ceremonies where Harmon delivered a moving tribute to his father.
I grew up in this small town in Idaho. My father used to like to go to the movies, and I'll never forget that a lot of times on warm summer evenings like this, my father would take my brother Bob and I to the movies. And then after the movie was over, he would race us home. He'd always win. He was a man that took a great deal of pride in his children. I'll never forget, we used to play a lot of ball out in the front yard. My mother would say, you're tearing up the grass and digging holes in the front yard. My father would say, we're not raising grass here, we're raising boys.
Harmon's biggest disappointment came in 1974 when Griffith refused to renew his contract.
That was a disappointment because I was hoping that I could end my career with the Griffith organization, and that wasn't to be, and I'm sorry that didn't work out that way, but after I played that year in Kansas City, I came back and was with the organization in a way doing television for 3 years, and so I was still connected with the ball club.
The Hall of Famer still loves Minnesota.
I think a lot of us who played in Washington and enjoyed playing there over the years were a little bit disappointed when we heard we were moving to Minnesota. It was a strange area to us. We didn't know a great deal about it. I had played about a month in the American Association at Indianapolis and had come to the Twin Cities for a couple of series, one with St. Paul and one with the Minneapolis Millers. Didn't know a great deal about it. It changed our life greatly. We soon realized what a wonderful place it was, not only to play baseball, but to live and to raise a family. And we just come to love this part of the country, and I really enjoyed the years that I played in Minnesota.
Well, that's about all the stories that we have for today. And again, our special thanks to Eddie Childs for his hospitality right here in his private box. This is the only way to go. And I'll be back next week with more stories on Baseball USA. I'm Don Drysdale. So long, everyone. Executive producers of Don Drysdale's Baseball USA are Bob...